Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Monday, August the 4th. We're happy to have you for another episode of tonight's program. We appreciate your guys' participation as always, and we have the depth chart out. It's an unofficial depth chart, but it comes from the team, which is always a mixed message. The unofficial, official depth chart released by the Titans, and there aren't a ton of surprises, but there are a few that are worth talking about, and certainly some notable updates to just kind of keep you up to date with the latest that's going on and how the coaching staff is viewing things and how that's different from the predecessors of Brian Callahan and his staff, the way that they would handle the unofficial depth chart. And now what we are looking at this evening is something that I think can at least give you a rudimentary understanding of where some things stand right now. Some of you will be surprised by players not being put higher on that depth chart at their respective positions. Obviously, things like Cam, you knew were going to be as a part of this, and there's no other option at the starting quarterback right now. Will Levis being out of the mix, of course, makes it a clear and obvious choice that Cam Ward would be the starting quarterback for this franchise. But there are a couple of different things, notably at tight end, notably at returner. Special teams do matter. Off-ball linebacker, a conversation we've been having at some length over the course of the last couple months that we will dive into tonight. I'm sure most of you have seen it on the internet, but just in case you haven't, we will talk through it with you this evening. Share the broadcast around Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch in the comment section if you are so inclined to spend your time doing that. We do appreciate you guys spending your evenings here with us. Different primetime schedule. I'm off tomorrow and Wednesday because I am heading to Tampa, and my flight is late in the evening or later in the evening to get to Tampa Bay. So we will not do primetime, or at least I will not do primetime on Wednesday. And then we will be back Thursday from Tampa to recap the joint training camp practices with you. Share the broadcast around. Text the link to a friend if you haven't done so already. Like the video. If you're hanging out with us, if you're hanging out with us live, do it now. If you are somebody who's watching after the fact, please do it at your convenience. And we do appreciate when you guys do that. Robert is off tonight. Normally we would do In Case You Missed It at the end of the show. Ross is helping out because it is Robert's birthday. I'm still not convinced it is his actual birthday. Nobody has given me any legitimate confirmation that his birthday is in fact today, other than he asked me for the day off, cited his birthday, and then just was we couldn't locate him after that. So if he pops up tomorrow or Wednesday or Thursday, we'll see if we can't hold him to account. But Robert is off this evening for his birthday, so we will enjoy our time without him. And I will do In Case You Missed It, and I do have some things prepared for you tonight. Let's see. Travaris Murray says he's definitely playing on Saturday. Who's definitely playing on Saturday? You have to be more specific. And also, I don't know if you're talking to me or if you're talking to the chat throughout the course of the evening, but be more specific and we will talk about, we need to know if Cam is playing Saturday. Well, yeah, of course he's going to play on Saturday. Why the hell wouldn't he play on Saturday? Yeah, I mean, that would be insane. There would be no indication whatsoever that Cam Ward would not play now. The only thing we don't know is how much they're going to play him. But yeah, I mean, he should play. I think their expectation is to play him, provided that he's available and as healthy as humanly possible, that they would play him in all three. There's no reason not to. He needs every rep that they can stand to give him right now because he's not yet good at professional football. And there is going to be a short, not a short learning curve, a very steep learning curve for him, as there has been. And as we talked about last night, they were terrible at practice on Sunday after having a good practice on Saturday. And that is just kind of what the Cam Ward experience is right now, up and down. And he's got a lot to learn. So any additional learning he can do on and off the field is going to be valuable. And of course, he would play in the preseason games. There would be zero indication. What is this for, if not to play Cam Ward? This is not like the Falcons, who are not playing either Penix or Kirk Cousins. They have to get him reps. Anyway, so share the broadcast around. We're going to talk about the depth chart and dive into these things together and look forward to doing just that. Welcome into A to Z Sports Primetime from the Palatial Rising Estate on this Monday, August the 4th. I'm your host, Buck Rising, and I'm proud as always to be presented to you by Two Rivers Ford. New Two Rivers Ford TV commercial just dropped. We may just give you a taste throughout the course of the evening, like you don't get enough of me on a regular basis, but we do enjoy our friends at Two Rivers, and you enjoy the car buying process there at Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. True Math Fitness is where you go for your best workout in Middle Tennessee. True Math Fitness goes above and beyond to make the fitness journey for you, specific to you, possible and attainable. True Math Fitness is the place that you go, and that you'll be so hooked when you go. They know that. That's why they offer you your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. So a couple of questions to start us off before we dive into the depth chart conversation. Nate Samuel says, may have missed it. Are they practicing in Tennessee before heading to Tampa? Yes, they are. They are practicing. They're off today. They're off tomorrow. They may have something tomorrow, but it's not open to the media. Wednesday is an open practice. It's the last practice in front of fans for training camp. There will be no more fan attendance at training camp practices after Wednesday morning. Then they are getting on the plane after practice on Wednesday. They will go to Tampa. They will practice on Thursday morning with Tampa Bay, and I'll obviously be in Tampa Bay. We'll give you live reports. Lucas and Robert will hold down the radio show. And I am going to either interview Mike Borgonzi or Chad Brinker in Tampa, and then we'll probably do Brian Callahan when I'm in Atlanta for a couple of days. And that'll be good. We'll play those interviews on the radio show. I'll do the whole radio show on Friday. It'll be a great time. Major Key says, Buck, get to the show. You ain't talking about shit yet. Well, you got somewhere to be? You're on my timeline, buddy. You think I do this for you? Come on, relax. Anyway, there is a depth chart. We do have depth charts, and that is the subject of tonight's discussion. Official depth chart from the team. First preseason game on Saturday in Tampa Bay, and this is a huge week. We talked about it last night. Huge week for the offense. Huge week for the offense, especially given the struggles. They have been tough to watch, generally. But that's kind of what I expected them to be, and I don't know how much – I don't know how many – I don't know where you guys are at. I know you guys give me feedback on a regular basis on Cam, and, some of it I take to heart. Some of it I just feel like is internet bullshit, and I try not to, take too much from Twitter dialogue, for example, because I think that Twitter is the dumbest version of the dialogue about this stuff. So I don't know how many of you are actually okay, probably going to be a rough go in 2025, but that's all right, because it's about figuring out Cam. Some of you may have higher expectations. You may have a higher standard for Cam than is reasonable to expect. You may think more of this football team than, for example, Vegas does, who has their over-under set at 5.5. But I think when you look at the depth chart, when you look at the roster, when you see that depth chart in person, you understand, yes, a team with some clear and obvious holes at a couple of different spots. And it reads less exciting than your practice highlights might indicate that it is. And even practice has been a struggle, especially for the offense. Completely normal through 2 weeks of training camp. But I think the coaching staff is taking the appropriate, or is at least trying to take the appropriate level of urgency for a football team that could get people fired if they don't show some level of meaningful success. Tampa Bay, a huge opportunity for them to continue to show what they've learned, for Cam to be continually tested, for him to learn from mistakes that he will make in that joint practice and in the preseason game, because Raheem Morris and Jeff Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator of the Falcons, they're going to try and do the exact same thing to him. Brian Flores in the final preseason game at home will try and put him in a blender. And then, of course, Denver in week 1 is the thing that everybody is waiting to get to. We're just a few days away from being a month away. September the 7th is the first regular season game at Denver. That is going to be a huge, huge opportunity. It's going to be, I wouldn't say impossible, a near impossible task to overcome, but the odds are definitely stacked against them, and understandably so. But how much better they can look and how much they can use these opportunities leading up to improve before Denver, and to show that, okay, maybe they don't win that game, but are they capable of playing in games like that where their things are going to be stacked against them, and they're going to be the worst roster of the two teams that are competing on the field in most of the games that they play this year. That's what this week is a part of the process or a step in the direction of. Depth chart is the first thing that we start with, because that's, that means that there's a game release. That means there's a game on, in this case, Saturday. And so there was a couple of different things to pick at from the depth chart. The Two Rivers Ford take is this: what is the biggest surprise on the Titans depth chart to you? Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. If you have not seen it, I will walk through it with you here shortly. In the comments section, they will make sure, or you will make sure to remember that your Two Rivers Ford take is made possible by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. And instead of doing this thing that I do every time I tell you about Two Rivers Ford, they got a new TV commercial that just dropped, and I'll let you enjoy that instead.
Let's face it, buying a vehicle should be straightforward and stress-free, and that's exactly how Two Rivers Ford has been doing business for decades. This locally owned dealership has a non-commissioned sales team whose only focus is to find you the right vehicle at the right price without the pressure. So you'll actually have a fun car buying experience. Great prices, easy financing, and a non-commissioned sales team. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
All right, easy as that. TwoRiversFord.com for more details. So as we look at the different things that you have to offer, Ross, delete that. That's a sponsor that keep our lights on, you idiot. I mean, how dumb could you possibly be as you sit there chewing whatever you're chewing? What is in your mouth right now?
I'm eating Hattie B's.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, who else makes things possible that you just went into the chat to denigrate? Hattie B's, dipshit.
Sorry.
Yeah. Get off the screen. God, it's unbelievable. I work with children for a living. Yeah, that's the depth chart discussion, though. As you look at the depth chart, Cam Ward is the starting quarterback. That's the first and foremost thing that people knew was coming, but is something that, at least to see in print, makes you feel better about them not playing any games or screwing around. Cam Ward is going to be the starting quarterback for this team. Starting wide receivers: Calvin Ridley, Tyler Lockett, and Van Jefferson. You've heard a lot about Alec Iamaner. Doesn't mean that Alec Iamaner can't be a starting wide receiver for this team at some point. He's not ready yet. Van Jefferson has played in professional football games. We know the offensive line. Chikakonkwo is slotted ahead of Gunnar Helm in this, but Gunnar Helm is 2, and that is worth noting. Josh Wiley is one of the more pre-cut players on the roster, as far as I'm concerned. I think some of you were surprised. Some of you want Josh Wiley to be more than he actually is. There's nothing to me that indicates that Josh Wiley would be on an initial 53 if he ends up P-squad. I don't think much of David Martin Robinson or Thomas Odukoya either, but those are different kinds of players. Gunnar Helm is the second best tight end on the roster and may soon be the best tight end. So Gunnar Helm as a second stringer, or as tight end 2 in this offense, depending on which looks they come out in, that makes the most sense. Starting offensive lineman, the only situation that's worth noting here is Corey Levin, because obviously Lloyd Cushenberry is not there yet. Let's see. Curtis says Van is our number 2. Well, yeah. I mean, guys, they're 2 fourth-round rookies. Like, just because they put together practice highlights doesn't mean that they're ready to play in NFL games. And Van Jefferson, I think Van Jefferson is more likely to be the starting wide receiver for the first couple of weeks than it would be. Like, I think that somebody would have to be hurt for one of these rookies to be out there week 1 right away. Just like Cam Ward's not ready, they're not ready. They could be ready. They will contribute. They have no choice but to contribute. But these are not players that have the requisite experience, the requisite skill just yet to compete as a starting NFL caliber wide receiver. They do have potential. I know you're tired of hearing of potential, and they will contribute this year. Halo says Lockett isn't number 2. I mean, Lockett is 35 years old. You know what I'm saying? Or not, he's not that old. He's 33. Or is he 32 going to be 33? He's either 32 or 33. Either way, he's past the peak of his powers. And also, he's your starting slot. So it's not wide receiver 2 or 3. It's wide receivers and then the depth behind them, right? And those guys I don't think they are exclusively in one spot. Curtis says, geez, our wide receivers are old. Yeah, guys, have you not looked at your depth chart? I'm confused. What what did you think this football team was going to be in 2025? They put a couple of pieces and parts here together, and they're going to try and make it work. And some of it will work. Some of it won't work. Some of it will be bad. Some of it you hope is going to be good. That's where we're at with this. There's a reason that Vegas has them at 5.5 wins, because you are fielding a wide receiver core that is old Tyler Lockett, old Calvin Ridley, old Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson's the youngest of the three, but Van Jefferson, Van Jefferson's clearly and obviously the least productive of the three. At least his most recent stint in Pittsburgh did not cover himself in glory there. But like he's the best option that they have for a team that is working their way into some level of contention. They are not competing for a Super Bowl in 2025, and I think your wide receiver core. If Calvin Ridley goes down, you're banked. Like that's just what it is. Just like if Cam Ward goes down, you're banked. There's a couple of different things that you have to be cognizant of, and that is you don't yet have depth that you can count on. You don't yet have starting caliber players that you can count on. This is going to be something that takes a considerable amount of time. I know you're sick of hearing that because you've been watching bad football for a considerable period of time. But they're going to have to work their way into whatever it is that you want them to be if Cam Ward hits. And that's still a big if right now. We reserve judgment until we see, let's call it half a season before we make any level of determination on Cam Ward right now. So that's the offense. The defense, nothing really surprising here. Sebastian Joseph Day, T. Sweat, Jeff Simmons starting line. Outside edge guys are Arden Key and Draymond Jones, James Williams and Cody Barton. James Williams is getting the most run. Cedric Gray, I think people were holding out hopes for. As a former fourth-round pick, James Williams is clearly the better player. The secondary is where your concerns lie. Your starting corners are Jarvis Brownlee Jr., Darrell Baker Jr., both of whom started for you a considerable amount of time. And your nickel is Roger McCreary, Xavier Woods, and Amani Hooker round out your secondary. Returners. And this is also interesting. James Prochet is probably going to be on this roster unless he has some kind of meltdown or turnover issue in the return game. He is your first and foremost option at punt return. Jaquan Jackson and Chimere Dike are listed as the kick returners here. Jaquan Jackson, I think, would have to really, really be able to trust him in the kick return game to be able to put him back there. I think that DK is probably the best option. But again, Jaquan has been in the NFL for a year. He does have ball security issues. He has struggled with drops. He is somebody who is – Josh Wiley is probably more pre-cut than Jaquan Jackson is, but Jaquan Jackson is probably second on my list of players that I would be pretty surprised if they were on the initial 53. But at least on the initial unofficial depth chart, he is listed here as the starting kickoff returner. So most things pretty standard based on, Now, depth – Gabe Jeudy-Lally listed as one of their backup cornerbacks is both, something unexpected and something concerning because your secondary depth is bad. L'Jarius Sneed is obviously on here, but he is not listed as a player that is available just yet. His name is in parentheses because he is still on PUP, as is Lloyd Cushenberry, who is also listed in parentheses here. Corey Levin, the starting center, and the two corners because of Sneed's situation. Now, Denard Wilson talked about L'Jarius Sneed. He said, no question, L'Jarius Sneed is the starting corner, no doubt in his mind. Of course, that relies on his health. Brian Callahan said sooner rather than later. We've got the first preseason game, and L'Jarius Sneed has not yet participated, not been cleared off the PUP just yet. So there's a couple of different things to keep an eye on here, but the thing that probably jumps out to you most is, damn, that depth is suspect. Very, very suspect. And also, how many young players this roster is relying on. Jarvis Brownlee Jr. is a second-year player. Sweat, Femi, Helm, the two rookie wide receivers. Obviously, Cam Ward. Tajay Spears is in year 3, and he's like one of the more veteran players. I mean, the offensive line has the most veteran players on the offense, save Calvin Ridley and, the geriatric wide receiver core that you're fielding. But this is a circumstance in which you look at this and say, yeah, this roster is very, very young, very, very inexperienced, and is going to have some speed bumps. They could exceed expectation. It's just as they can. It is more likely that they are a losing football team in 2025, but that doesn't mean that they can't be more competitive, and it doesn't mean that they can't be that they can't show you something collectively that makes you feel positive about the direction that they're heading in. Now, could they be one of these teams that go worst to first? Theoretically, they could. But what would have to happen in that circumstance? Ross, stop replying from all 3 A to Z accounts where every time you reply to somebody, nobody needs your feedback that much. Stop replying in the comment section. Jesus Christ, sit there. Just sit there and look dumb with your big ass head and stop replying to people in the comments. What are you doing? It's a 20-minute show. You can't keep your opinions to yourself for 5 freaking minutes? Jesus. Anyway. 3, yes, Brian, yes, Brian. Yeah, I see it. We all see it, Ross. God. Anyway, stupid. Anyway, what the hell was I even talking about? This is it just pissed me off. Just I saw so much red in that very, very, very big ass head says pot calling kettle black. My head's not actually outsized. It's just my ego is outsized, right? My metaphorical head is big, not my literal head. Ross actually just has a giant horse head. Anyway, look at him. Look at him laughing like he didn't do anything wrong. Big ass head. Look how big his head is. God, get out of here. Piss me off. Anyway, what you have to work with here is a lot of inexperience. It's why Saturday and Sunday, where you have a solid practice, I think this as top to bottom solid a practice as they've had in training camp, and then you shit the bed on Sunday. A lot of that situational. Sunday was designed for the offense to live difficultly, and they did. All 3 units struggled. Tim Boyle, Brandon Allen, and Cam Ward. Everybody looked like shit. There were a couple of different reasons for that, but like Saturday and Sunday, I think are going to, as we talked about yesterday, that's going to encompass the Titans 2025 experience. You're going to have highs, you're going to have lows. You hope that the highs are higher in this season than they were in last season. You hope that the lows are less low, the just nosedives that you took in so many of these games last year to where you weren't even in it. You were basically done halfway through the first quarter in games like Washington. Detroit, they actually held it together for a better period of time than I thought they did. Going back and look at that box score, but the special teams obviously nuked them early on in that game. This is going to be something that they're going to have to earn, right? If they exceed expectations, it means that they had one of the best they had one of the most impactful rookie classes in the NFL this year, if they're going to exceed their expectations. And they would still, their expectation is 5 wins. 6 wins is an overachievement by any standard for this football team. It is double the wins that you have. Gord Tyrell says Khalil Mullings is a surprise to him. Mullings is listed on the running back depth. You've got Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears, Khalil Mullings ahead of Julius Chestnut Mims and Jamar Jefferson. Well, Mullings, I would assume that is in part due to the fact that he is going to be a special teams player. He's a former linebacker. He can tackle. His running back skills need refinement, but he's like a bigger, faster, stronger version of Julius Chestnut. And Julius Chestnut will be somebody who acquits himself well in the preseason. He usually does. Curtis says, is Strep going to make it or practice squad? Oh, yeah, no, Xavier Restrepo should not be on this roster. I would not think. Yeah, there's nothing. Now, I will say that he got his first reps with the twos that I've seen him get on Sunday. Sunday was the first time I've seen him catching passes from a quarterback that was not Tim Boyle. I keep wanting to call Tim Boyle Nick Boyle, former Ravens tight end. I don't know why I keep doing that. But anyway, yeah, Xavier Restrepo. I mean, Xavier Restrepo would have to win one of these returner jobs to be on the active roster. And even, yeah, I mean, that would be the only way. That would be the only way that I see. There's nothing special about it. There's just nothing there that you can't get from Prochet or, I mean, obviously Lockett is somebody that you look at is in the slot role. Who else? Is there a distinguishable difference between him and Mason Kinsey right now? Restrepo has played a year with Cam Ward and Kinsey hasn't. That's really the only distinguishing factor to me. And also Restrepo is not catching passes from Cam Ward in practice. They'll rep after practice. Cam Ward will stick around and Restrepo will stick with him. So that would be the time that they are working through whatever they're working through when Cam does additional work after practice. But yeah, there's nothing about Restrepo that I'm good. Like if he doesn't make it, there's no significant value add there, and especially where in a wide receiver core where there's opportunity. Now, like I said, he could end up acquitting himself really well on special teams in the preseason, and that make a difference for his standing right now. But through 2 weeks of camp, there's nothing about that guy that says he's anything more than a practice squad dude. I'm looking at this right now. They have him listed as third on the punt return duties behind Prochet, who's obviously done it at the NFL level, behind DK, who's a physically superior player, faster player, obviously, and then Restrepo listed third. But, Xavier Restrepo's a hard worker, and Brian Callahan was very complimentary of him. But, yeah, I mean, P Squad, primed for the P Squad, I think is how I put it on Twitter. He can be what you want Kinsey, what you've wanted or what you've thought Kinsey to be. Or Mason Kinsey, who's played a lot of football at this point in his career, who's a vested veteran at this point in time. It's crazy that Kinsey came in I want to say Kinsey came in the COVID year. He may have even, no, it was COVID. No, NWI was COVID. So that would have been 21, I think, for Kinsey. But still, I mean, he's been around for a period of time. Shay, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing the first name. He says, I have to disagree with you about Restrepo Buck, and you're more than welcome to. But Shay, my informed opinion is based on watching practice every day, watching him every day in some form or fashion, and talking to the coaching staff, and also the depth chart. Like, he's buried on the depth chart. If he warranted more discussion, there would be signs, right? You are entitled to hold on to your opinion and whatever has informed your opinion that way. If it's just because he was a highly productive college player, yeah, it's worth betting on those guys. I completely understand that logic, but in the same way that Cam Ward is struggling at the NFL level because it's a lot different and a lot harder. Xavier Restrepo is going to be up against the same kind of situations. Kinsey was the same year as NWI. That's crazy. That's crazy that dude has been around that long. That's a D3 wide receiver. To his credit, I know, really to his credit. I've given him a lot of shit, and he's just a funny character in the middle of all this. He's definitely one of the more energetic players on the field at any given point. But it is kind of wild. It is kind of wild that Kinsey has lasted this long. Shay says he has progressed faster than any other receivers as UDFA. No, he hasn't. I mean, and also there's only two. It's him and what's this other guy's name? 82. What is 82's name? TJ Sheffield. No, him and TJ Sheffield. I mean, okay, so he's ahead of TJ Sheffield. They only have two UDFA wide receivers. I progressed faster in terms of what? Again, Shay, you are entitled to your opinion, but your opinion, I think, is misinformed based on what you have seen or have not seen. And there's only two UDFA wide receivers on this roster. So I think that there's, again, it's an initial depth chart. Things are subject to change from the preseason. There are a lot of different things here that you can agree with or disagree with, but they are telling you what this roster is in their eyes, even if they're going to put an unofficial label on it. And that is the best thing that you have to work off right now. Xavier Restrepo buried, Gunnar Helm tight end 2, Cam Ward obviously starting, and the secondary looking as suspect as it does. Now, I like Jarvis Brownlee a lot, and not just because I enjoy him as an interview, but I think Jarvis Brownlee is a legitimate NFL corner on a probably bad defense, and that's not going to help him. But Jarvis is somebody who I think can be relied upon. I think Darrell Baker Jr. is more suspect, even though he played probably the best football of his career last year. He's been a journeyman for a reason, and corner comes with a lot of variance. And right now, the secondary against, the reason the Titans offense has looked bad is not because of the secondary. It's been because the front is just teeing off on Cam and on all three units as much as humanly possible, not because the secondary is blanketing things in coverage. Anyway, there will be a lot more discussion to have, and we will look forward to talking about it with the preseason game. Let's see what he does in the preseason games. Let's see what they all do in the preseason games, and then we can have a renewed discussion on that. I guess that would be Sunday afternoon when I come back from Tampa Bay. All right. So a couple of different things. Well, no, that's all we're going to do as far as the depth chart goes. We will spend more time on a couple of different things, Titans related tomorrow. Then also this Cleveland Browns quarterback news that is going to be funny because, Shedeur and Cam are going to be talked about a lot. Well, Shedeur is going to be talked about a lot more. And there's Browns news that would indicate that Shedeur Sanders, speaking of guys who are not likely to make a roster, man, I just messy. Ann Herndon asked me how I feel about Vandy's bowl ring. Did they lose that Birmingham Bowl? They lost the Birmingham Bowl, didn't they? Well, don't just shrug. Look it up. God. I'm pretty sure Vanderbilt lost the Birmingham Bowl, and they put out a tweet. They did win. They did win the Birmingham Bowl. Okay, so congratulations to Vandy on their bowl game win. They got them a winning season, and they have Birmingham Bowl rings as a result. They tweeted about it, and like Vandy, it's just a different standard for football than it is at Tennessee. And I get why they were used to poke fun at, but they did Birmingham Bowl rings. Anyway, so in case you missed it, Robert's having a birthday, so we're going to let him off the hook. The question for you guys is going to be, who's the best CEO head coach in the NFL? Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You guys give me a response in the comment section. We'll talk about it together. Who's the best CEO head coach in the NFL? Right after I remind you that the primetime program is made possible by True Math Fitness in the Gulch, truemathfitness.com for your first workout free. As a Middle Tennessee resident, no workout ever recycled or repeated. They helped me lose 48 pounds. They helped me keep the weight off. They've helped me build muscle mass. Just lead a generally healthier lifestyle. And your plan will be different from my plan because True Math Fitness goes above and beyond for you as the individual, even if it's in their group fitness programs or if you want to work out in their open gym. There's feedback for you and cost-effective memberships conveniently located in downtown Nashville in the Gulch. TrueMathFitness.com for your first workout free. Who's the best CEO head coach in the NFL is the question. This was a conversation that Corey Curtis of WKRN News 2 and I got into on the radio show on Friday, where we were talking about Brian Callahan. And Corey's point, which I thought was a really good one, was the job of a head coach is more than X's and O's. Now, Brian Callahan was specifically hired for his X's and O's ability, and all coaches will have some level of football acumen, right? You can't just be a dope and be an effective leader. You have to know ball, for lack of a better term, but also be an effective leader that way. And that's where the CEO component of the program comes in. So a lot of these things come to mind. Lowdown says it was Dan Campbell. Now, a lot of people made fun of Dan Campbell when he got initially hired. And now Dan Campbell, because he's had success, is an easy topic or an easy person to nominate. I don't think many of you would have said Dan Campbell 3 years ago, right? 3 or 4 years ago, whenever he took that job. Some submissions for Reed and Harbaugh, both good submissions. Though I think Andy Reid has a good grasp of his program. He does work in correlation with a really, really strong front office structure, which just produced your most recent general manager hire. Nick Sirianni from Jack Longley is an interesting submission. Howie Roseman is the CEO of the Eagles program, more so than Sirianni. I will accept John Harbaugh as a good submission. But when I think of people that lead effectively, I think of Pete Carroll, and not just because this clip went viral over the weekend.
Yes.
I was wondering if you could compare and contrast sort of your philosophy and style of coaching with the other most successful coaches like Belichick we've talked about.
Good. Yeah, that's really good.
Other sports like Popovich, Phil Jackson, etc.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned a whole array of guys, and they're all different. Okay. Let's go to Belichick. Okay. Okay. Let's just start off with this one. That back in the day. You can picture what it's like when an army brings in a bunch of grunts for the first day and they show up on the scene, and all the civilian guys, and they get off the bus and they what do they do to them? What happens to those guys? The first thing, people start yelling at them, right? They start yelling at them, and they start berating them immediately, and they get their clothes off. They put them in all the same clothes. Do they cut their hair? Yes. Shave the hair, make them all look exactly the same, and just rip their ass until they just break them down, and the guys just say, okay, I give up. Whatever you want me to do. That's the extreme illustration of authoritarian, coercive way of teaching and leading a group. It's the most famous, the most successful way in history. It's the one that people understand the best. You beat people down, make them scared, just do what I tell you, don't do anything else, don't take any chances, just do what I tell you to do, and then that leader can count on what you can do. Okay, that to me, that's the extreme authoritarian way of teaching. That ain't the way we teach. Okay, it's also not the way that special forces units are taught. They're taught, now they beat the hell out of those guys. We relate a lot to the process that those guys go through. They beat the hell out of those guys so they'll learn to persevere and they can hang through anything. There's nothing that they can't withstand. But they also teach them to think. They teach them to respond to the training that they encounter during the time they're there, so that when it comes time to function, they can't just do only what the guy tells them to do, but they can think for themselves, they can react on their feet, they can respond, and if they're really gifted, they can make great choices and great decisions to do things that one guy could never accomplish otherwise. In special forces, they do just 7 or 8, 9 guys. And they'll take on hundreds of guys, and they can whip their ass because they know how to function together and work together. And they outthink, they outsmart, they outreact. That's the end of the spectrum that we're trying to teach on and coach on. We're at the other end of it. We're trying to celebrate the individual with extraordinary commitment to practice. Practice is everything to us. We work our guys' ass off. They work hard, they work fast, they compete, they battle every day, but they're having a good time doing it because they know that we're supporting and celebrating who they are and empowering them to find their very best. That's the other end of the spectrum. Does that make sense? Popovich is in the middle somewhere, okay? And who's the other one you asked? Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson's kind of more, we're kind of over here, me and Phil, kind of over here a little bit more, And then Bobby Knight's way the hell down here. He's on the other end, Those are the illustrations. And it's interesting that the authoritarian way doesn't trust people. They don't trust you because they're afraid that your own personal things are going to get in the way and you're going to respond out of the norm and they can't count on you. It's a great way because that's how you control big groups. We just don't think that way anymore. So does that help? Yeah.
First, thank you so much.
So that is Pete Carroll speaking to a class that he teaches at USC. Really, really effective in the way that he's describing different leadership styles and why his is different. And I thought it was notable that he described Belichick. One of those guys is getting a job at 73, and the other one got iced out of the league and is currently dealing with PR disasters and getting shots fired at him by Mary Kay Cabot, who's saying that at 28 years old, when she was covering him as the head coach of the Browns, she had a hard time with Bill Belichick because Bill Belichick simply couldn't relate to a 28-year-old woman. That's too old for Bill Belichick's blood. Pretty good. So Robert has the night off. That's in case you missed it. It is his birthday. I suppose you could go tweet him. He keeps trying to get more people to tweet him because he's very disappointed in how few Twitter followers he has, and that what it takes for him to get more Twitter engagement is usually to bother me on social media or for me to retweet him. So if you want to go tweet him at Robbie_Walsh, go tell him happy birthday and tell him that Ross did a shitty job tonight and that he should probably come back and do his job correctly. It's going to do it for us tonight. Stokely says, Buck say three nice things about Bert for his birthday. Okay. One, he knows when to give me a cigarette without me having to ask. All I have to do is look at him. That's nice. What's the second nice thing I could say about Bert? Take your shirt off? Oh, in honor of, okay. That. How about instead of saying nice things about Robert, why don't I just pay tribute? I should have done the segment shirtless. You're right, Slay. We'll let the taco meat hang out. We've aired in doing the thank God for the green screen. We've aired in doing Robert's segment in without Robert Walsh's style. So here we are in all of our glory.
Do a twirl. Do a twirl.
Do a twirl?
Do a twirl.
I don't think that really works in this chair. There's not enough room for me to twirl around here. All I know is he's been talking about his traps as being better, and I don't know. I think we're giving him a run for his money here. But I think that with Robert and the way that he does it, he likes to do the what's the Geodude pose that he does. He puts his arms up and like flexes a little bit. I'm not going to do all that. But
should do a pass set.
A pass set? Again, there's not enough room for me to do a pass set. Ann says, I thought the estate was palatial. The estate is palatial, but the streaming setup is a little more compact.
Everyone liked the show if you want Buck to shave his chest.
Why would I shave my chest?
Shave the chest.
I think you're mistaken on the appeal of the chest hair. Now, I know it's not for everybody, but I think it's more well reviewed than not. One day you'll hit puberty, Ross, and you'll understand. Get off my screen. All right, very good. That's going to do it for us tonight. Have a great rest of your evening. We appreciate your participation. Tops off for the boys. Well, maybe not tops off for the girls. This is an FCC. It's not really an FCC safe thing. I think I've called 3 people dipshits tonight. Anyway, have a great rest of your evening. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone.